Remember back when this show was just about Barry trying to find his mom's killer? Good times. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron, and this is the post Geekout reaction for Season 3 of Flash. You guys have been asking me all season long to talk about this show, but just to be able to simplify things, I always like to just come in here after the entire season is wrapped up, and I've got a massive shadow over my eye. There we go. And come in here after the entire season has wrapped up. This show is not professional at all. And then just basically discuss the whole season as a whole. And I gotta say, if you guys have been watching my channel and you've heard me just casually mention The Flash here and there, I've been comparing it a lot to the Marvel shows. I've simply been comparing it to the Marvel shows because the Marvel shows have kind of spoiled me on the idea of binge watching. Like, I love being able to just sit down and watch all these episodes just in a row. So with The Flash, I decided to start doing the same. I would just DVR the shows, or I would come in here and watch them when they were on demand. I would watch like 4 or 5 episodes in a row. And because of that, I was starting to not dig The Flash that much this season, simply because I was really getting sick of the villain of the week premise. Like, I was getting used to it, the Marvel shows where it's just one long continuous story and you just see that one story kind of advance a little bit every single episode. Whereas shows like The Flash, yeah, they have that one continuous story, but then it's like, oh, by the way, there's this pirate guy this week and we have to fight him, and then we gotta do that. Oh, and you know, never mind what we were talking about last episode, because this episode we have to do this. I really started noticing that in Season 2, when it was in Season 2, Jay Garrick basically got grabbed and brought back in by Zoom into Earth 2, and then the portal closed, and then that was the cliffhanger at the end of it. And I was like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen next episode? Next episode they went, so we decided to just go back to our regular lives. Just try and continue things as normal. I went, bull crap, you would not do that. After witnessing something like that, you'd be like, we gotta find any way we can to get back to Earth 2 and save Jay Garrick. We gotta do this. We would not just go back to everyday life like everything was normal. And yeah, that's when I started going, oh man, this show is just way too dedicated to, we gotta have a special thing to do this episode that stands completely on its own. And for the first half of this season, it was kind of the same, but at least they kind of had a reason behind it, like this whole idea that Dr. Alchemy was coming in here and he was creating people who had powers in the Flashpoint universe. And it's like, okay, so that's why you're getting a villain of the week. It's like, all right, well, there's a reason for it, and there's a mystery behind it of who is this Dr. Alchemy. Okay, that's interesting. And also, he had to learn all the things that were different because of what he had changed in Flashpoint, which part of me digs that. Part of me digs that Barry now has to live with the fact that all of his time travel has consequences. He has wrecked other people's lives, so he has to get used to that. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. That's something that we can explore. But at the same time, I gotta be honest with you, I really don't like mopey Cisco. Cisco was always the fun, bright ray of energy in this show, no matter how depressing it got. And sure, he had some deep moments here and there, like when he had to reveal the Flash's identity to save his brother. It's like, okay, that's a good moment, shows some good character growth for you. But this season, when he was just like, yeah, man, I just don't even care anymore. Yeah, Barry, you caused me to lose my brother. Just constantly mad at Barry. I was like, dude, Mopey Cisco, no fun. Cisco's supposed to be the fun guy. No fun. So, yeah, it was kind of torn on. It's like, I like this idea that his actions have consequences and that he now has to live with what he has done to the universe. But I don't like what he did to the universe. So, you know, although I will say, Caitlin, this was actually a decent explanation for why Caitlin now had to deal with Killer Frost. And I will say, in Season 2, when they saw her evil self over in Earth 2, which I still really wish they would just come in here and rename Earth 3, because if you're a comic book junkie, you know that Jay Garrick and the older heroes all live on Earth 2, and the evil versions of everybody lives on Earth 3, and then it gets revealed at the end of Season 2 that Jay Garrick, the real Jay Garrick, was actually from Earth 3, and the one they've been calling Jay Garrick, who was actually the evil version of the Speedster, and on that planet everyone was evil. It was now what they were referring to as Earth 2. It's complicated. I'm so sorry for everybody out there who doesn't read comics. You're probably listening to this going, what in God's name are you talking about? Never mind. I just wish they would come in, swap them. Just basically come in here and go, well, they had the evil Speedster in their universe, so let's downgrade them to Earth 3 a little bit, and Jay Garrick, you get to be Earth 2. But anyway, whole other thing. So I will say that in season 2, when she popped up as Killer Frost, I was like, man, that's kind of goofy. It's kind of trying a little bit too hard. This season, I actually liked it. I think she actually did a pretty decent job, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that we actually got to see more development with her. She wasn't there to just pop up as the villain for that week. But, you know, this season we actually got to see her battling with that. We got to see Killer Frost by herself for several episodes in a row in which she had to kind of deal with like, oh shoot, what am I? Do I want to go back to being Caitlyn? No, I don't. So what am I going to do about that? So, you know, there was some good stuff in there. But I will say the thing that really got me through the first half of season 1. Because as I said, even though Dr. Alchemy was interesting, it was still villain of the week. And then as soon as Savitar popped up, I know everybody's like, Savitar, oh my god, the god of the Speed Force. I was kind of almost done with that show when this happened. I know that everybody else was loving Savitar. I didn't give a crap about Savitar, and I will tell you why. I did not want an evil speedster to be the villain 3 seasons in a row, especially an evil speedster who's got some mysterious background, and oh, who are they really? Oh, it's someone in disguise. Oh my god. Season 1, it was okay, because we all knew who it was. They didn't try and hide that from the audience, and the Team Flash was smart enough to kind of figure it out themselves. Team Flash was smart enough to kind of go, yeah, halfway through the season, I think we know who this guy is. So it's like, okay, that's fine. But then season 2, okay, who's Zoom? Okay, your explanation for who Zoom is kind of dumb. So what are you going to do season 3? Oh, another speedster. And we also have to figure out who this guy is. And this one's the god of the Speed Force. All right, brother. You do realize you're going to be making a season 4, 5, and 6 of this show. If in season 3 you're fighting the god of the Speed Force, where do you go from there? Who is your villain for the next season? This really seems like you kind of jumped the shark early on your speedster villains. I did, just to go ahead and tell you guys, I do eventually come around on Savitar. I'm just describing how I felt about halfway through the season. But I did eventually come around on Savitar, and I'll talk about that later. But yeah, as I said, wasn't really digging the first half of this season. But the thing that kept me in there were a couple characters. One, HR. I will admit, I find it very weird that every single season they want to get a new Harrison Wells in here. That just seems so strange to me that that's the thing you're going to do. Every single year you have to get that actor on here to play a different character. But in all honesty, oh my god, that actor has range. That actor has been able to play every single different interpretation of Harrison Wells incredibly well. I don't remember the name of the show that he used to be on, like the one that he made his big premiere on NBC back when I was a kid. I think it was some like, I think the name Tom was in the title. I don't even remember anymore. Put the title down here. But I find it so odd that on that show, he was this big, goofy, friendly guy who was everybody's best friend. And then he's been playing a total jerk and a super villain on this show. And then season 3, it's like, here's the big, friendly, goofy guy who's everybody's friend. I was like, oh, it's kind of like you're going back to your roots, man. But I loved all of his interactions with the team. I love the whole mystery of, oh, I'm a genius. Yeah, okay, no, I'm not. I'm just a guy who has good ideas. But then they found a way to make that actually important on the team. And it's not like a thing that was important like once in the entire season. Like, no, he actually did add on to this team. Like, he was a regular addition. He did give them good ideas throughout this entire season. So it did kind of play into that. Plus, I love the idea that he wanted to turn Star Labs into a museum, because to me, that is like the seedlings being planted out there for the Flash Museum coming around, which I'm looking forward to when that eventually becomes a thing. But the other two things that really kept me along and kept me watching the show, the actor who played Kid Flash, which, hold on, let me look up that name. Kenan Lonsdale, that's his name. Kenan Lonsdale, season 2, when he was kind of the rebellious youth, he was like, yeah, you were never there for me, Dad. And he was, sorry, that is a stereotype that I just really hate with characters. But in that season, I didn't think he was that good of an actor. I thought he was trying too hard. But season 3, when he is now the Flash's biggest fan, and he's got his super speed, and he wants to help out on the team, and he wants to do good, and he's the bright-eyed, optimistic youth, he's nailing it. It's like, yeah, okay, you can't play the angsty young guy who's just mad at the world, but you can play the fun, happy kid who just wants to help everybody out. He was so damn charming in that role. Like, every single time that he was like in the Kid Flash outfit, and he had his big eyes up there, like all excited to go out there and save the day, I was like, that's what Kid Flash should be. You are nailing this role. Way to go, kid. And when he and Jessie eventually decide to move in together, and he has to go and tell her dad, that was a great moment. Showed a lot of humanity to that character, because he was very scared at what he had to do, and it wasn't fighting some big villain, it was just talking to his girlfriend's dad. It's like, you know what? Very relatable. Way to go, kid. Kid Flash. But the third thing that kept me watching throughout the first half of this season, that had me really intrigued to tune in every episode, and made me go, you know what? There's something different about this season that I am enjoying. Tom Felton. Way to go. I love seeing any kid actor who is in something huge go on to continue to be in stuff. And this kid was in one of the biggest movies of all time. He was in a huge chain, a massive franchise, and everybody for years it was like, well, you're going to be that character forever. I love that he said, you know what, people are going to look at me as that character. I'm not going to try and be a big A-class actor starring in giant blockbuster films. I'm going to find a super popular TV series out there. One where I won't be the star, but I will make sure that I am on there and memorable as a character on that show. I will make sure that I am a memorable part of the lineage of that series. That is a smart move when somebody wants to kind of come down from such a huge role and shows that they can do other stuff. This was the perfect step for him. The Flash is the perfect show to go to after you've been on something big like the Harry Potter franchise. Yeah, I'm loving him. I loved him this season. I love seeing him be just the total jerk to Barry, but then seeing him kind of warm up to Barry. And I love that it wasn't like he was just being a jerk to be a jerk. He actually had legitimate reasons to be a jerk to Barry. Like, he kind of showed, like, yeah, when I have a guy who just disobeys all the rules as my partner and just disappears all the time, I'm gonna kind of hate him. And when he kind of makes that argument, I'm like, yeah, screw Barry. Barry is a terrible partner to have to work with if you have to do anything other than superheroing with him. So yeah, I totally understood his character. When it got into the whole thing about him turning out to be Dr. Alchemy, I was a little bit miffed because I was like, well, that just seems way too obvious. And also, great, another person on your side is going to turn out to be the villain this year. But then it's revealed that Dr. Alchemy is like his persona that got brainwashed. So he actually is a good guy. So it's like, okay, that's something new. That's something that we haven't seen the previous couple of seasons. And also, it does give him a reason to kind of lighten up to Team Flash. So watching him slowly become part of Team Flash, it was one of my favorite things to watch this whole season. But as I said, all those new things I was enjoying. But all the old things from the previous couple of seasons, yeah, they were starting to wear me down. I already mentioned that I'm having a problem with the idea of having a villain of the week. But also, there was just a lot of story arcs that I noticed from previous seasons in this season. And I'm like, you know what, man, it's time that you stop. It's like, here's an example of what I'm talking about. Anytime that Barry just out of nowhere gets all mopey and doesn't want to talk to the team, he's just like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. How does Team Flash not realize at this point that he's covering something up? Like, it got to that point in which, like, he had seen Iris's death, and he was like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. Like, and he doesn't want to talk to the rest of the team and is being all, like, trying to push them away. And I was like, oh my God, dude, you guys have seen him do this so many times now that how on earth are you going to think, well, Barry's just being a jerk this week for some reason? No, you guys have been around him long enough that if he starts acting this way around you, you should turn to him and go, okay, what are you hiding? We're your friends, you can trust us with this, and we know at this point, if you're acting like this, you've seen something that you don't want us to know, but you need to tell us. We're your team, come and tell us about this. I just want someone to say that because, yeah, we have seen that too many damn times. And as I said, Mopey Cisco, I didn't really care for that much. I will say that when they had the big team up with Supergirl and Arrow and Legend of Tomorrow, which I have a coworker who described that as being the Redbox version of the Avengers. Because, yeah, you know, whenever like a massive big blockbuster film comes out, there's that like Asylum Films company out there that makes the really cheap rip-off version of it so they can put it out in red boxes before the movie hits theaters. It kind of was what it was. I was not that impressed with that giant massive crossover with the Dominators. I gotta admit that. Mostly because in the big finale of it, whoever it is that directs Legends of Tomorrow takes some notes from the Flash team on how to direct superpowers, because the big battle in the Flash episode, when they had to fight off all the brainwashed characters, that looked awesome. That looked great. In the finale of that big crossover, when they had in Legends of Tomorrow, it was literally just everybody just doing kung fu up on a roof against CG creatures. And it was like, God, you have all these powers, and you're doing nothing with any of them. Everybody's just kicking and punching. Like, there's a moment in which Vixen just activates and you see like a giant elephant form around her. It's like, oh, she's gotta do something now. She runs in and just continues kicking and punching. And I was like, not gonna like run past them with a giant elephant shadow around you, knocking them all down or something, like trample them all, or alright, whatever. But that's aside the point. I'm talking about a massive crossover thing instead of the entire season. Speaking of massive crossovers, I'm just going to go ahead and say, as I said, I watch all these things on DVR and on demand, kind of like all at once. And for some reason, my DVR just did not record the Supergirl Flash musical, so I'm not going to talk about that at all. I have not seen that. I'm assuming it was great. But okay, let's get into the second half of the season. After Barry goes into the future and he sees Iris get stabbed, as I said, I have a big problem with the whole villain of the week thing. However, this show, after that halfway point, after he goes into the future, they came up with the perfect excuse to do villain of the week. They actually came up with a reason to explain why they would have to do that. It was actually quite brilliant. He goes in the future and he sees news footage talking about every single thing that has happened in the couple months leading up to the moment when Iris dies. So now he has to go back and try and prevent every single one of those things from happening, because if he can prevent those things from happening, it might change the future. That was smart. They come in here and write down on a big old chalkboard, here's all the things that are going to happen over the next couple episodes. We have to make sure that every single one of these gets stopped. So it gave us a reason for every single episode to focus on a different thing. That's how you do it. That is how you do villain of the week. You give us a reason why there has to be a villain of the week. Now I will admit, didn't always work. Most of the time it still worked. Most of the time I was like, yeah, that was fun. That's gonna work out just fine. But then every now and again, they would still just do some random episode, and it's like, this is not the time to do the random episode. Like the memory loss episode, I get that you want to do a memory loss episode. Oh, a guy with super speed loses his memories. Oh, that's going to be fun and wacky. You don't do that literally the episode right after you learn Savitar's identity. That's something you do like mid-season when you want to spice things up for a bit. Not right at like the penultimate episode when all this massive stuff is about to go down. Right after the giant big reveal. Time for the fun, wacky memory loss episode. Although I will admit, when they actually started going into, hey, Barry's actually fun now, and Barry doesn't have all his weight on him, I was like, okay, I'm not opposed to the idea of a memory loss episode, because you actually found something good to do with it. You actually found a way to turn it into like a character thing. You actually found a way to turn into, hey, let's examine Barry and all the stress and pressure that he carries on himself. And also, like, when Iris was able to activate his memories again with that old memory of them together, it was like, that is such a sweet, touching moment. Shows a great bond between these characters. Again, you just don't do it right after you learn Savitar's identity. But, as I said, they came up with a great way to explain why they were doing all these different things every single episode. And that led me into an episode that I didn't think we were going to get, when they actually have to go to Gorilla City. Marvel. Oh my God, Marvel. DC gave us Gorilla City for an entire episode. You can't give me Kunlun for 5 minutes? Are you freaking kidding me? That drove me nuts watching that Gorilla Grodd episode, because like, yeah, okay, fine. It doesn't look like a big blockbuster. It looks like just really, really good graphics for a TV series. But it's a TV series. I'll take that. I know I'm not sitting in a giant IMAX theater watching this up there on the screen with a couple multi-million-dollar budget. I know I'm just watching on TV. my standards are lowered to TV level, and for TV level, those were damn good effects. They did a damn good job with that whole Gorilla Grodd episode. They found a reason to not show too much of the sea, but to explain them being in the sea. They gave us the big set piece, the big arena. They gave us a fight. They gave us in the next episode a bunch of gorillas storming down the street. Way to go. That is how you do it. Marvel, you gave me just 2 glowing eyes in a cave for a dragon? Dude, I know you're afraid that it might not look great, but you gave us something that looks terrible because you were afraid of not even trying. Just try, man. Just try. I understand it doesn't have a massive budget. I will give you that. I'm fine with a come-on that doesn't look great, just as long as it looks like you tried on it. That's a side tangent anyways. Also, it was around this time that Killer Frost really came out, and as I mentioned, Season 2, when she just popped up there, I was like, whatever. This season actually, can't talk. This season, after she actually turned into Killer Frost, I thought she was a much more interesting character. I think she didn't overplay it. I think that she had just the right tone of sinister to her, but still didn't seem cartoonish. So yeah, I think they did a really decent job with Killer Frost this season. And I really love where it leaves off with Killer Frost, but I'll get into that in just a moment. Let's go into the final 2 episodes. And the final 2 episodes, I was really legit stunned when they killed off Iris, because I was like, all right, Wally's gonna come in here and save her or something, but I was like, nope, Wally got taken out early. All right, maybe Jay's gonna break out of the prison, save him. No, okay, something's gonna happen. Something is gonna happen. And then it just has the footage of her saying that she would marry him and everything. It was a tape that she pre-recorded, and I was like, okay, you're putting that in there as a red herring. I know that you're not actually going to do that. You're putting that in there so that I think you're going to do it. And then the episode just ends. Damn. Yeah, that was pretty damn bold of this show. That was pretty shocking that they were willing to do that. And by that, I mean, make the audience think that they actually did kill her off for an entire week. Damn. Way to go with that. That is how you do a cliffhanger. But also, in the next episode, that's how you do an explanation for how you get around it. Because I was like, they have to get around it some way. There has to be some kind of explanation. She goes into Earth 2 or Earth 3 and picks up the Iris from there and switches her into something. There's no way you just killed this character off. And then the drumsticks drop, and I was like, wait, how on earth, why is she holding the drum? Wait, did he give her the drumstick ahead of time? No way would she be dropping the drumstick unless that was important for a reason. When he stabbed her, did the drumsticks block it or something? And we didn't, how on earth is that? And then it fades, and it's revealed it's the image inducer, and it was HR. Holy crap. Yeah, so, I'm sorry, I'm still kind of emotional over that. Because HR, like I said, Cisco was the bright, sunny character in the previous 2 seasons. HR was that bright, sunny character in a season that was even more depressing than the previous 2 seasons. He was that light, that ray of hope, and he was also the guy that you cheered on because you knew he was a screw-up, and nobody loves a screw-up more than the American audience. American audiences love watching a screw-up try to redeem themselves, try to make good, and try and fix all of their mistakes. And it's like, you know what, HR, you lied about all of this. There's no reason for you to be here at all, but you know what? You've been proving yourself. You've been coming in here, and you're starting to get close with the scientists. You know what? We're invested in your story. We hope that everything turns out okay for you. Oh my God, you're dead. And you died sacrificing yourself to make up for the one big mistake that you made. That's one of the most heroic things that I have seen in this entire series. That was a great moment. I was legit speechless. I was totally stunned by that. Yeah, I'm still just trying to get over it. And you really do understand the connection he had with people. He's the guy that trained Wally. I mean, that's the thing that really gets me. When everybody was like, Wally, you can't be a speecher. He was the one guy who was like, yeah, kid, you can totally be a speecher. I'm going to help you out with that. Which actually made me think that they were going to actually have him turn out to be Savitar. Because in the previous 2 seasons, the evil speedster always turned out to be the guy who was training the heroic speedster to be better. And this season, HR was doing that. And every single season, they want to get a different HR in here. So it's like, all right, if he turns out to be the villain, It'll fit the exact pattern you had the previous 2 seasons, and it'll give you an excuse to get a different HR. I am so much happier with this. Not happy because I'm very sad about it, but I am so much more satisfied with this. This was a great ending to HR's story. Damn, man, I seriously can't believe that they made me care about HR that much. That was stunning. Although I have yet to even speak about this. Speaking of the revelation of who Savitar is, I didn't see that coming because it made 0 sense to me that would be future Barry Allen, although a coworker of mine pointed out if you've been reading the New 52 Flash comics, there is a moment in which evil Barry from the future comes back and he has the metallic blue glowy suit. So I was like, oh, and a car alarm just went off. So it was like, oh, I see. You know what? Should have guessed it from that. That's actually pretty good. That's pretty good. Also, just speaking as somebody who works in a comic store, I'm really glad that it's evil future Barry, because people all season long have been coming into my store going, do you have anything with Savitar? It's like, Savitar was like a throwaway character from one story arc back in the 90s that never mattered for anything ever. No, we don't. I don't say that to them. I'm just like, yeah, no, they don't really collect any of his stuff. Yeah, sorry. It's like, no, if you want to know who Savitar was in the comics, nothing at all like this. Random throwaway character. He's some guy who led like a church of the Speed Force, and then he was gone after one storyline. But now when people come in and ask, do you have anything for Savitar? I can just give them evil future Barry storyline and hand them that. And it's like, there, that's it. See the blue glowy stuff? That's him right there. But yeah, so I didn't really care for it being evil future Barry, but then next episode they reveal it's not evil future Barry, it's evil future Barry's time remnant. It's that thing that we saw last season when he had to go back in time to help himself. This is a version of him that went back in time, but survived, and because he survived, there's no space for 2 Barrys. Everybody rejected him. And because everybody rejected him, he got angry and was like, why have you abandoned me? And that's why he was willing to kill, Iris, because I was like, why would future Barry want to kill Iris? Well, Time Remnant Barry wants to kill Iris because if he doesn't, then Barry will never be forced to create a Time Remnant in the first place, meaning if he doesn't kill Iris, he stops existing. Okay, you got me. That's actually a good explanation for why we now have Time Remnant Barry. I'm totally down with that. You got me. But okay, continuing the final episode. I dug that they had finally come up with a cure for Killer Frost, and I dug that they came up with the cure because Tom was, I forget his name, Julian, because Julian teamed up with Caitlin's mom, which that had been set up previously in this season, so I was like, all right, bringing stuff together. I like that. Good. I'm glad to see that. I did have a problem with the fact that Savitar was like, all right, I'm going to get Cisco to build me the device to make me a god. Because like, do you really think he's going to do that? Do you really think he is not going to try and double cross you? And so yeah, that was kind of predictable. But I did also enjoy that he made one last plea to Savitar. It's like, we will find a way to help you. You can still come along with us. And I dug that they actually did have like that brief moment of, oh shoot, is Savitar going to turn out to be okay? I knew he won because the season would have to end with them fighting somehow, but I was for a moment like, you know what, it is kind of cool to like play pretend that this could work out. To play pretend like, hey man, maybe Savitar is going to turn out okay and he's going to become like that weird future version of the Flash who had the black costume with the big silver lightning bolt. For anybody who remembers back when Wally West was Flash, I was like, yeah, maybe he can be like the 5th Flash or something like that. Or maybe he can go in there and free Jay from the time prison and sacrifice himself. But no, he doesn't. He double crosses them because he's a villain. So, and then like I said, I did know that Cisco was going to double cross him, that he wasn't going to use the device to make him a god. But I dug that he used the device to turn it into a key to the Speed Force to bring Jay Garrick out. But before that happens, I really, really dug seeing Black Flash. That was awesome. And I dug that they didn't just say it was Black Flash. They said it was Zoom from the previous season. They said it was Hunter Zolomon. What you thought happened at the end of the last season where Hunter Zolomon got sucked into the Speed Force and attacked by those evil wraiths? Yeah, that is exactly what you thought happened. He turned into the Black Flash. Which for anybody who has been a long-time fan of this channel, back when I used to make theory videos, I made a theory video saying, who is Zoom? And I said it was going to be revealed that he was actually the Black Flash. I demand partial credit. I demand partial credit because, oh my gosh, did I kind of sort of call that. Anywho, So, it all leads up to Wally and Barry and Jay, the three Flashes, all coming together to fight Savitar. I honestly thought that fight scene was over way too quick. This is something that should have been epic, and instead I was like, you got one really good scene of them running against each other. It should have taken up like 10 minutes. You should have saved the vast majority of your budget for this season. You could have just completely cut King Shark out of that one episode and just used all that budget for a bit longer of a fight scene between these guys. Although speaking of that episode, I completely blanked over it, but really good seeing Captain Cold back. I know that dude wanted to leave the show so that he could go and do Prison Break, but dude, just leave Legends of Tomorrow. Just leave the show that requires you to be on every single episode and just pop up one episode a season over on Flash. That's all I'm asking, because you're one of the best things about this show, and seeing the two of them work together was so much fun. In fact, when they revealed they had to find a way to break into this facility, I was like, man, it's a shame that Captain Frost isn't here anymore. It would have been great. I mean, Captain Cold. It's a shame that Captain Cold isn't here anymore. It'd be great to see those two guys team up to break in. And then he time travels back and grabs him, and I was like, oh! Kind of called that one too. So yeah, that was great to see them team up, and it was fantastic the way that that episode ended, because I don't know if they're ever going to bring that guy back. I want them to, because as I say, it's one of the best things about this show, and you can't have a Flash show without Captain Cold. But I love that they end off by Captain Cold saying, maybe that's why we get along so well. You see the good in me, I see the bad in you. I don't know what voice that was. That was Captain Cold mixed with Jack Nicholson, which I think is Christian Slater. So I really thought that was a great way to leave off on them. But as I was saying, final episode, you could have done a little bit more with the effects on that, so yeah. But I love that it ended with Iris shooting Barry, with Iris shooting the evil future Barry, because yeah, as she said the exact reason that was good. All season long, she's been waiting for Barry to save her, then she saves Barry. Way to go. That's a great way, bring a story, full circle, everybody's happy, yay. But then it ends with the Speed Force going ballistic, and it's like someone has to be a prisoner in there, and Barry caused all this by creating Flashpoint, and then the Speed Force in the form of his mom shows up, and is like, it's time for you to come home, and then Barry just takes her hand and walks off into paradise, and I was like, did they actually do that? Like, I'm not stupid. I realize 90% chance he's coming back for the next season. However, again, this is one of those things that I was thinking about all season long. When like, after the Captain Cold episode, when I was like, well, he had to leave because he went to do Prison Break, I started thinking about Grant Gustin, and I started thinking, you know what? This is like the one show out there, the one superhero show, where you actually could let the main character leave to go and do whatever else he wanted, because all Flash fans out there know Wally West eventually replaces Barry Allen. And then at the end of this, when he turns to Wally and he's like, Central City does have a Flash. I was like, oh my god, this is like his graduation. This was like a perfect moment for that. Don't get me wrong, I kind of hate that HR died in this episode, and you spend the majority of the episode mourning HR, and then in the last 5 seconds it's like, oh no, Barry must go as well. It's like, yeah, you know, I kind of already spent this whole episode mourning HR. So you leaving, which should be a massive thing, doesn't have quite the impact that it should have. You shouldn't really share two characters' departures. But yeah, I'm 90% sure that he's of course going to return like as soon as the next season begins. But damn man, they actually made me feel it. They are making me doubt this 10%, which is more than any show ever would, because that does seem like a perfect send-off to him. It's him going home. It's him going back to his family, and they're in the Speed Force. It just kind of feels weird that it came out of literally nowhere, like at the last 2-3 minutes of this episode is when all this comes up. And it's like, yeah, you know, you're tying it back into the rest of the season, but it feels like we should have been focusing on this for an entire episode or something. And that's the main reason why I'm like, yeah, no, he's coming back. Also because I've yet to hear like any interviews or anything with Grant Gustin saying, yeah, I'm gone. I'm going and I'm doing movies now. But yeah, that is kind of a weird thing to think about, that it is kind of weird to think about that The Flash is kind of the American version of Doctor Who. You can literally just have all the Flashes after a couple of seasons disappear into the Speed Force. There will be another character there who can become the new Flash. That's actually kind of cool to me. So if Grant decides to leave, and if he decides that's it, hey man, you did a good job for 3 seasons. And you had a pretty damn good send-off. Wish you had focused on it for the entire episode, but yeah man, I enjoyed it. But as I said, 90% sure he's coming back. But the mere fact that this show makes me doubt that for 10%, that shows the quality of this final episode. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of Season 3 of Flash. What were your favorite episodes? What do you want to see them do in the next season? Because they teased who one of the villains will be, but no way is that going to be the main villain. It is such a D-list villain. It is a scraping bottom-of-the-barrel villain. I honestly want next season to be the Rogues War. I want it to be all the rogues coming back. Get Captain Cole back in there for God's sakes. Also, that would explain how you could do a villain of the week premise, because every single week you would need a brand new rogue to pop up as they're all forming into 2 big teams that are going to go at each other. I want that to be the storyline. But, you know, that's just me. Let me know in the comments down below what you want to see next season. Follow me on Twitter and Tumblr and Twitch at Professor Thorgy, and make sure that you come back next time. Bye.